I'm hoping to get one with my bow, and then I got a 300 blackout for Pastor Appreciation Month,
That's what I'm talking about.
and then I'm hoping to kill one with that.
Are we going to get this episode aired before the end of October so I can ask for it? So I can all... Hey, I put down 3 this past weekend with the 350 Legend. I was impressed with that. I was like,
let's go.
This wasn't even mine. My dad bought it. He was like, you want to use my gun? I was like, yeah, I want to use that. I ain't buying one. I was like, heck yeah. So it's good. Well, let's get going on this. Let's do it.
Deal.
Welcome back to the pod, everybody. Those of you that are watching, listening, faithful viewers, all the tens of thousands of you that are going to join. We know we're excited about it. But anyways, we're back today. Today's going to be a good episode. I got a couple friends with me that you may recognize, and you might be shocked that they're here with me today because you're thinking like, what church podcast am I watching or listening to? But I got Pastor Scott Brandon with me today from Harrison Faith, and then also Pastor Seabastian Diffey from Brand New Church as well.
Yes, sir.
And so this is something we've been planning for a while, something I've been wanting to do, honestly, for months now. And we were supposed to have my lead pastor, Pastor Mike, with us, but he's like 25,000 feet above us right now. You're currently giving him a hard time. So.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, I understand. His treasure's on earth. I get it. It's all right. It's no worries.
The edit button's going to be going hard at the end of this. It's just going to be like these massive clips. Save this for the end. But so he was supposed to be here today, and then he had to not be here. And so anyway, so he'll be back tonight. But we're going to do it anyways.
Yeah.
We're going to make it happen. And thank you guys for being here.
Yeah, thank
Happy
you.
late
Absolutely.
birthday to SEA Bastion.
Yes.
Your post last night about people not spelling your name right. Michaela has the same thing. Mikala.
Yeah.
Nobody spells it like that. And she has the same thing. She's like, if you're going to publicly write on my Facebook wall, tell me happy birthday, my name is right there.
Right there.
Literally right there.
It's right.
Literally.
Just type it, you know?
Yes.
And so it's always her pet peeve. And sometimes she's like, it's so rude to me. But she's like, also like, just pay attention a little bit, you know? But anyway, so happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
I hear that people think that you're old now, that they're calling you Unc status.
Yes.
How old are you?
24.
Like, come on, man. Are you serious?
Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
Can barely drive. Just got his driver's license.
You're a baby, dog.
Proud of
You're
him.
a baby.
So the reason I have you guys here today is that I wanted to have this conversation about all 3 of us represent different churches, different bodies within this Harrison area. And the truth is that a lot of people have bounced or floated between all 3 of our churches. And that I think a lot of times that in this, that people get maybe surprised when they see that maybe we have relationship or that we have relationship. I know all the time, Pastor Mike, he talks about how much he enjoys, you know, if it's having coffee with you or lunch with you or whatever, he was like, I just love Pastor Scott. I want to hang out with Pastor Scott. I want to help him. I want him to help me.
I just do it for the kingdom, man.
Yeah. And
I love Mike, too. It's a great relationship. It's an easy relationship.
yeah, sure.
Because competition is not the focus. We don't care about that, right?
Right.
We understand it's a kingdom that we're about trying to build.
Yeah. And I think that it's great that, you know, for you and him to recognize that, but then it's like, where does it get lost between us down or us out into the congregation? Because we have people within our bodies that were like, well, I hate that pastor, or I don't want to go here, or I don't want to go there because they did this and that. And so maybe they think that they have the same thoughts that like we do about each other, but it's like, it's not that at all. And so what I wanted to do in this was maybe talk about some misconceptions, talk about how we can help people, how we can talk about how it's helpful for us to have a relationship with one another, because ultimately we are the church. You know, when we get to heaven, that it's not going to be the ROLC section and the Harrison Faith section, the BNC section, like it's just the church.
Right.
And it's not going to be an AG or a non-denominational or a Baptist or this, like it's just the church. And it's people that have relationship with Jesus. And I think that so many times, especially us, like we're kind of small town USA, you know, and it's like everybody knows everybody. And if you go to the Mexican restaurants after church, like you're going to see all the people you used to go to church with and the people
Still
that
getting used to
Hold on.
Yeah.
You said Mexican restaurants. You said that plural.
Yeah.
The only one you need to go to.
Let's see if we agree.
There's one
Let's see
right
if we're in
answer.
unison.
There's one right answer. In Harrison, Arkansas, the only Mexican restaurant you can go to is El Mexico Lindo.
Come on.
I mean, that's the only right answer. Sorry, I had to correct that. You said it plural. There's only one right answer.
Do they go to your church?
No, they don't.
Oh, okay.
They don't.
That's how they
I
know
wish
it.
it. Hey, if you want to.
if you want to. If you want to bring chips and salsa.
Yeah,
Can you imagine communion? Forget the wafers. Chips and salsa?
There's many times where I feel like we have just let out of service. I walk into Lindo's and I'm like, man, we just should have just continued here. Like, I feel like, honestly, if I'm being real, I feel like the altar call in Lindo's is better than the altar call in church. I'm just saying.
People are happier.
Just try to be real. It's something about those chips. I don't know.
Something about it.
Maybe that's what we should do. We should put chips and salsa on the altar.
I think we
and
should.
just bring them. I don't know. Just a guess. It might work.
Let's try it. We'll try and see if we can get
game
him
with
to come to the altar, and we'll give you chips and salsa. So one thing I kind of wanted to ask you guys a little bit about here before we get into I have like 3 main thoughts I want to hit on. But before we get to that, why do you guys think, and I don't care who goes first, whoever answers this, but why do you think that there maybe is this misconception that pastors or churches, whether it's here in Harrison or whether it's across the globe, that there's competition between bodies? Why do you think that happens? Do you think it's more of a pastoral issue between different organizations? Do you think it's people? Is it teaching? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on why we think that there is this competition. Because, like for example, for me, that there's another local church here, and I've tried so many times that I just want to help them. They do a lot of things with a local school after ball games and different things, and I have tried. I mean, I've been youth pastor here for 10 years, and I've tried for 10 years. Let me help you. I don't even have to stay. Can I just bring food for your, and no, we don't. And I'm just like I am not trying to take you. I just want to help, be a blessing, and just be a part of what's going on. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on some of this
Ultimately, what I believe it comes down to is mission drift. You look at Harvard, and their founding mission statement was to make disciples of Christ. And then they turn into this liberal, left-wing college, right? And I think a lot of pastors, they get that original calling, that original mission. They're on mission. They're reaching people for Christ. They're doing everything they can to share the gospel. And then slowly, they become calloused. They may get drifted from the original calling or the original mission, and now they're distracted by numbers, by attention, by likes, and now that's their purpose, and their purpose isn't to share the gospel. And so I think ultimately what it comes down to is they're just drifting from the mission that we're all on, and they get focused on their church, and they forget that there's a capital C church like you just shared about.
It's a good thought.
It's good. I think some of it is generational too. I know from just talking to my grandfather, there was so much need to be heard, so much culture of individualism, that has really stemmed from that radio era, and then when TV come about, everybody wanted to be seen, and whether they admitted it or not, it was still a goal, right? I remember just pastors back in the day where, they could get on TV was a huge thing, or back in radio was a huge thing. And so there was so much of this, whether they want to know it or not, or say it or not, there's so much this self-promotion that they desire, right, to get out there and be known. And so I think that we are experiencing a lot of that carryover. I think we're doing a great job at working against that. We understand that it has divided the body of Christ. But I think some of the problems that we have been passed down to us. But I also believe, in addition to that, is that we have not really focused on, Jesus' main prayer. His main hope was, he says, Father, he goes, I pray that they are one as you and I are one, right? This is the high priestly prayer. And since we don't understand that heart anymore, there's so many other things that we prioritize, but we forget, man, the main thing that he said is that if y'all are united, if you're one, then the whole world will know that you love them like you love me, right? That's great. Christ. So that's huge. And so I think we forget that, kind of like Sebastian's saying, we forget that mission and that identity, that we're not supposed to be all these different denominations. And I know how Sebastian leads is going to be different than I lead, and how Pastor Mike leads, and that's okay because we all have different friends, right? We appeal to different people. Right. There are different people groups, and that's totally okay.
Yes.
But we forget that there is you can have diversity, right? but you have to have unity in the midst of that. So I think it's generational, but I think it's also that we don't focus on and we don't push unity like we should, and probably get into a little bit more.
Yeah.
But that competition is a real thing. All of us got flesh inside of us.
Sure.
We all struggle with that, and the Lord knows that.
Yeah.
So it's something we're having to kind of shove in the background as much as we can.
Yeah, that's a great thought, and we'll definitely talk to some of the flesh side of things, because that is very real, even amongst us. I think of just seeing those things, and it's like, I got to captivate this. Like, well, I got to put the brakes on this. So one of the main things I want to talk about today, kind of a main point, is I want to talk about pastoring the same people. Because it's, you've talked about seeing things and this and that. But the reality is that within our community, that we all likely have at some point pastored the same person or the same family or the same, whatever. And I want to talk about maybe how we handle that in a kingdom way when we know these things. Like I know like that you and Pastor Mike have discussed, hey, so-and-so just left. They're going to say that they're going to come to your church or vice versa. I just saw this. Did you guys just have a baptism this past weekend or the weekend before?
Sunday.
Okay,
Sunday.
So I saw your guys' pictures of it, and I saw somebody that got baptized, and I was like, whoa, they just got baptized here last year. And I was like, I actually didn't know that you were gone, because I thought I just saw you. And, and these things. And so as I was like, I knew we were going to have this podcast today, and I was like, whoa, like this is perfect, because this heads right on. So I wanted to just kind of pick your guys' brain on, when we see this, because we're all on social media and we see these things, and we see these people that we were like, I thought I just saw them at church with me a month ago, but now I'm seeing them with him or with him. And as leaders and as pastors, how do you, in maybe a kingdom-minded way, how do you handle that? How do you guys process that in a healthy way of not letting it get you down or not letting you stay up at night wondering, worrying what happened? But have you guys found some things that help you of like, okay, this is okay or whatever? And I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this.
Definitely. I think the thing that's been taught to me the best and that I've had to learn and grow in is how to have a fatherhood mindset. In our churches, we understand like we have kids that are in our churches. And some of them, sometimes kids are just kids. They do things that you don't want them to do, right? And so mom and dad may be amiss. They may be gone. They may be talking. And so in that moment, I'm there to kind of remind them, hey, this is what your mom and dad would expect, right? So I'm just going to step in and be a father for a moment, because that's a role that we get to. We forget that we're spiritual fathers, just not biological fathers. So if we understand that means that there's a lot of kids that I'm getting to put my hands on, right? There's a lot of students that I'm getting to pour into, right? There's a lot of things that are coming my way, and if I understand who I am as a spiritual father, those are not my kids, right?
Yeah.
Right? They're not. I don't own them, right? But I have the privilege to invest in them. And so if my spiritual kids go somewhere else, I'm just hoping that another spiritual father would say, hey, while I got you here, let me just invest in you. Because at the end of the day, they're not truly my own, right? I mean, I'm just a shepherd as it is anyway. Yeah. And we have a father. And so I'm just trying to do my best to convey his heart, which would be to pour into them when I have them in my proximity, in my custody at the moment. And then I'm just praying that when they go somewhere else, that they'll be invested into somewhere else. I know this as a dad. I pour into my children as much as I can. But what I find is that the greater words that they adhere to are from people who are pouring into them as well, right? And so that would tell me this, is that just because they're mine does not mean I have the greatest investment in them. And if I can take that to the church world, that maybe they may be my people that come to our church, but I may not be the greatest person to invest in them. And if they go somewhere for a weekend or a month or 3 months or whatever it might be, I mean, would I rather them be faithful and be loyal to the church so we can depend on them? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, my frustration really wanes, because I know if they're being invested and I know they're growing in the kingdom, that's the win. For me, that's the win.
It's good.
So,
Yeah, I think it's a huge the reason people do that is because of the culture that has been built over decades in the sense of church shopping and the investment into the idea of church hurt. And people just walk around and go to different churches every single week because they're afraid of so-called church hurt, whenever really they're just avoiding a godly connection to a house that just wants to invest in them. And so you said something about not letting it keep you up at night. And for me, it's just realizing that people are just looking for a home. And it's different strokes for different folks.
Yep.
There's some people that are gonna love Brand New Church, and I'm so glad and honored that they do. But if they don't, then I hope they find a home at Harrison Faith or at River of Life Church or wherever. I just hope that they find a home. And if Brand New Church isn't that home, that's okay with me. That I can be at peace knowing that I did my best to connect with them, to get them in the house. And if Brand New Church just wasn't their vibe, that's okay. I did what I was called to do.
Yeah, that's great. One thing that, Pastor Mike, that he says around here, and he said it often throughout the years, he's like, most people like ice cream, but not everybody likes chocolate. Not everybody likes vanilla. Not everybody likes strawberry, but most people like ice cream. And as churches, some of us are just different flavors.
Yeah.
And you're like, I like ice cream, but I just got to find the place that is the right thing for me. And so the first time that you and I actually ever met, we sat down, we had lunch, and a student got brought up that's been between our ministries.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was like, this is somebody that I had kind of lost contact with. I didn't know what had come to be of her, but somebody I'd known for a long time. And so you were like, okay, well, I've met her and she's been in ministry and all these things. And so it gives me some peace, like, okay, like, I thought maybe she was lost or gone or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, thank God that she's in church, because there was things and situations that definitely could have pushed her away. And I'm glad that she found a home somewhere else. And, maybe it is for the rest of her life. Maybe it's for a season, whatever. But, I think that it's important that for us of like, as you were saying, Pastor Scott, of like just celebrating growth in people, that if they're growing and their life is getting better and they're drawing closer to Jesus, that's a win. And maybe we sowed a seed at one point and somebody else actually is, pulling the harvest out of the ground. But it's like, I'm just glad that I got to be a part of it and that happened. And so one thing that I want to ask you guys is, as pastors and as leaders, because this does come, I think it's really important that for us to model what relationship looks like. It's important for us to show that this isn't just talk, but that we actually walk this out together. And I would ask you guys of like, okay, as leaders, how do we portray this to our congregations, of that everything that we just said, that we just talked about, of that we just want people to grow. We just want them to, as you were saying, of that fatherly position of they are my kid for today, and I'm going to raise them up, but eventually they might spread their wings and go somewhere else. And how do we get our people? Because these are the people that are transitioning between us three and everybody else in town. And how do we tell them, like, hey, if you're here and this is your home church, be committed. Be in the house, be faithful. Right. But if it's not, it's okay. But we want you somewhere. We want you somewhere that you're growing, you're preaching the word. Maybe you don't like our worship, but you love their style of worship, or you don't like how Pastor Scott preaches, but you like how, it's whatever. And how do we model to our people that to communicate unity between campuses? Yeah. You guys got any thoughts on that?
I think the best way for us to communicate that unity is by things like this. People seeing us together, and people seeing, whether it's on a podcast or it's at a basketball game or at a football game, we see each other, we dap each other up, we hype each other up. And not only that, I think that and a very effective way to do it is to be able to celebrate other churches. I was on a podcast with my pastor, Pastor Shannon, the other day, and he said that if you can't celebrate other churches, you're likely not called to senior leadership, because you're driven by pride and you're driven by competition. And so the best way for us to communicate this unity to our people is by showing unity to our people, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and we've had this conversation, me, you, Pastor Caleb, and we've had this conversation just in a group chat of like, all right, we got to be at some ball games this year, and us three just have to sit by each other. Let's go to Bergman, let's go to Valley, let's go to Harrison, and let's just, the three of us, just sit beside each other and model to, because me, you, Pastor Caleb, we're all involved in student ministry. And it's like, let's just show these students that I've got kids that one week they're with me, the next week I see that they're with you, or the next week I see that they're with Pat. And like, let's just show them that, we want you to get plugged in somewhere. Like, let's be faithful to the house. But like, we can all get along. You can have friends that are at other youth groups, and it's okay in these things. So I think it's just what you're saying there. Like, let's model it, not just talk about it. Like, let's actually do it.
Another way, which is my favorite way, is that I'm also the student pastor, right? And so we have students learning to kind of talk about other churches, how they should honor and stuff like that. And there's adults that are like that as well, that just want to gossip about church. And my way of shutting that down is, if, let's say, somebody was saying something about Pastor Scott. They're like, Pastor Scott, all he does is talk about money. I'm like, we do too. And I love Pastor Scott. And that's one of my favorite ways, is they just want to say, oh, Harrison Faith, oh, ROLC, whatever church it is. If I know that pastor there, I'm saying, I love Harrison Faith. I love Pastor Scott. I love Pastor Tanner and Pastor Mike and ROLC and what they're doing. It's been so effective. And my favorite thing to do is to just brag on other churches, because it takes other people so off guard, because they're expecting that competition.
Yeah.
And there's not. We're on the same mission.
Yeah. I think one way we are successful right now at it is every month, month and a half, something like that, we will just have what we call a kingdom prayer. And I'll hit different churches, and we've just been saying, hey, I call these pastors and say, what is it we can pray for you about? Give me 3 things. And so we just take time in the service that Sunday morning and just say, hey, I talked to Sebastian, I talked to, Mike. And I said, this is what they're looking for. And we're going to pray. We're going to pray that God blesses them in the way that he wants them to grow, or however the prayer request may fold out. And so it's not only that, it's great to pray that way. Matter of fact, we prayed for Pastor Heath at Woodland not too long ago. And he shot me a text right before Sunday and said, hey, man, we're baptizing people this Sunday. And it got me thinking about that. But he said, we're baptizing people this Sunday. And he goes, this is doing well. This is growing well. And so I was looking back. I was like, man, these are the things that we're praying about, right? So I was like so eager to get back into the pulpit and say, hey, y'all, we're praying. And guess what? And these things are happening. And we get to share in the celebration of that. We get to share in the victory of that. And matter of fact, something we did Sunday was we had baptism. I know y'all had baptisms. And Pastor Heath had baptisms. And so I just texted them all really quick. I said, hey, how many y'all baptizing? How many y'all baptizing? And then that day we celebrated the kingdom declaration.
That's
right.
It.
We didn't say we're celebrating. Thank God for the number that we got to celebrate. Sure. We just said, man, today, and I added all the numbers up together. So today we celebrate this number. I think it was like 40-something. We're celebrating 40-something kingdom declarations.
Let's go.
And so I think that type of shift to get them to understand that, man, what we did here is not a silo, right? That what we did is being expanded. The kingdom is expanding, and so let's lift up the kingdom, right? That's what we're a part of. So I think those type of things that show intentionality. And like what Sebastian is saying, when they hear us praying for a pastor, they hear me talking to a pastor and celebrating those things, then they don't really talk about someone they feel like that you got a pretty good relationship with.
Yeah.
So I think that detours and probably re-educates, if anything. Okay, this is how it's supposed to be. So those are I think good steps.
That's really good. I love that. And I forgot that you guys had, Pastor Mike told me a little bit that you guys were doing some of that. And I love that there's no pride in the way of like, I'm going to get up on a Sunday morning and I'm just going to talk about other churches. And I'm just going to,
it's a kingdom
what's
win.
happening.
It's a kingdom win. How do we not win from that?
Yeah.
If the kingdom expands, now that doesn't mean that our flesh is fighting it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I don't know about you guys. I have to just be real sometimes. I just have to realize, Scott, you got to stop. Like, you got to get this whole mindset when you see someone getting blessed or the church is doing great. I mean, on that same day, Sunday, I had a friend from Louisiana. They celebrated 30-something baptisms. I was like, man, that's awesome, But was there a niche in my heart that said, I wanted to celebrate 30?
Of course.
Yeah, because this flesh, this wretched man, I cannot put him down, So he always wants to creep back into my life. So I think, there's what we know to do principally. But at the same time, too, we all struggle with those things that the flesh just wants to be the flesh, right? Sure. It wants to be selfish.
Sure. I mean, it's our whole life trying to kill that flesh.
And we just need to teach our body that we're not so sanctified that we don't even know what that's about, right? But because we understand that, and even though that's in our way, that's why we have to be even more intentional to walk through those temptations,
Right.
As it were.
That's good. I like that. Transition thoughts a little bit here from just directly of like people within us. I want to talk about working together for the kingdom. And specifically, I want to kind of maybe hit on it. And as I say this, maybe you guys think of some things, maybe times that you've worked with another church or a different campus or whatever, and how it's blessed your body. Because I think that unity amongst us is really important. And even just like the simple things that I think about is that so many times we're borrowing tables from you.
Yeah.
All the time, man. It's like we own so many tables, but it's not enough. And so we are all the time. We're borrowing tables. And that portable sound system that we have, I don't know how many miles that thing's got in between Caleb coming to get it and you having it. Like, we just swap this stuff all the time. I think last week, the week before, you had texted me and that we were needing some of those crowd dividers. And I was like, I so wish I had some extra ones. But even just this past week, that I was super thankful that we were able to, or that I was able to, be at Harrison for their FCA.
Yeah.
Harrison's a door that I've tried to get in for years and haven't been able to. And that through you and through your contact there, that I was reached out to by the leader, and she was like, hey, I'd love for you to come to Harrison FCA and speak. And I was like, that's just because Sebastian, that he was okay. She was like, I got your number from Sebastian. And so I think that's a really cool thing. And so, I just want to hear from you guys, as I share there of maybe it is just the physical of us swapping equipment, or for you, for connections that I got into a place that I've never been able to get into before. And publicly, that I know you weren't there, but publicly, I just honored you that last Friday morning. I was like, hey, before I get going, I just want to say that I have never been at Harrison. I've never been at FCA. And if it wasn't for Sebastian, that I know a lot of you guys know from BNC, and maybe he's your youth pastor, I said, but it's because of him and because of Jordan reaching out. Like, that's the only reason that I'm even here today. And so thank you to, thanked her and you. And it's just like, because it's not anything I did, and it's God working it out between a relationship. So I just love to hear from you guys, maybe sometimes in your guys' lives, your ministries, or your churches, that working with somebody benefited you, them, the city, the kingdom. I'd love to hear just some thoughts on that.
Yeah. I think, I was fortunate to be a part of a ministry at the church I came from, where we just wore the towel for other churches when it came down to it. So if they had some big Christmas thing, I remember this one church, they had this monstrosity of a Christmas drive-through. Like, it was massive. It took them like 2 months to put on.
Like Christmas lights things?
It's like they were building whole cities, right?
Yeah.
And it was just humongous. And so me and my team, we went out there. We spent like probably a good 3 weeks, like 2 days for 3 weeks, just helping them build, doing things. And what we loved about it is we got to serve and help them be excellent, right? Yeah. And nobody even knew we were there, right? That's what I loved about it, was nobody knew that we came, so we just came and served that way. There were many other churches in that same way, that they just needed help. Sometimes it was just painting walls. I think I had some kind of a ability to sense out churches that were just in need of just labor, and to me, I love doing that, because I can come in and I can make it look good, or I can help them get it together. And then when we're gone, and then whatever they are doing is, it's up front for the people, nobody knows that kingdom work was there, right? Yeah. It doesn't matter. They just think, man, this is great. But I know what's most important was that leadership knows that they're not a silo. They're not on their own, right? And for me, most important, they knew that they could call me again. It's great. If they needed something. Yeah. So I think, I would just encourage other churches, and we are trying to work that way ourselves here at Harrison Faith, that we're just trying to find the talent. Like, what is it that we can do? How can we help? I mean, if it's just swapping tables, then so be it, whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, if the gospel is preached, souls are saved, and we all win on that.
Yeah, it's good. I love that.
Yeah, one of my favorite things is just little things like you mentioned, because as a youth pastor, I can understand how difficult it can be to get in the doors, especially post 2020, to get in the doors of a school, just to share a word, or even just to bring pizza at lunch. Yeah. And so anything like that, I just love helping other youth pastors out. But one of the most recent ones was between our Farmington campus and our Bergman campus. At the Farmington campus, we had Dr. Jeremiah Johnston bring a word, and he's an expert on the Shroud of Turin. And so we had an entire exhibit at the Farmington campus of the Shroud of Turin, just kind of explaining what it was, the details of it, whether or not you're a believer in it or not, it's still a great communicator of the gospel. And so it was at our Farmington campus for 3 or 4 days. And then we worked out a deal to where on that Thursday of it being there, it could come to Bergman. And we had it open all day Friday, or part of the day on Friday, all day Saturday, and then of course on Sunday morning. And now because of our 2 campuses being able to really work together to get that project together, which was a complete hassle. So many people at the Farmington campus went out of their way to help us get that there. And we had a team to unload it and everything like that. But we had that there, and we had so many other like groups from ministries in town and even groups from other churches there that got to walk through that exhibit. And now at Brand New Church, we have several baptisms that are being lined up from that exhibit. And there's no telling from those other ministries and in those other churches who else was like, oh my gosh, Jesus went through this for me. I needed to get saved and baptized. And I think that was one of the biggest blessings as of late to our church, because it's just again, whether you're a believer in it or not, you're a skeptic or not, whatever, it communicates the gospel so clearly. But yeah, I love unity. I love working together. And little things just to help you get in the doors, or Caleb or Scott or anybody of any school. I just love doing stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think that's a neat thing too. And even like as you're saying that, that some people might look at that and be like, well, it's the same church. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law, they're campus pastors in Nebraska. Shout out Christ Place. But that, it's very real sometimes, because they are kind of like you guys. Like, they're not just down the road. They're totally different. Like, they're almost an hour away from the main campus. And so a lot of times it can be like, okay, yes, we're the same name, but we're kind of out here on our island alone. And so that's just one thing that I've sat with them and talked and listened, is how grateful they always are when main campus can, hey, my worship leader's sick today. We're kind of a smaller campus. I don't have anybody else. Can you send somebody from the main campus and come and help and cover? And it's just those things of like, the main, like, no, we need this person. But it's like, no, it's more important that we have other people. They need somebody here. And so I think that that's really important there. Kind of the last main thing I want to talk about today, and really where I kind of wanted to get on and land in this, is that I want to talk about with you guys of just breaking this, if you want to call it spirit, but just breaking this idea of competition. Because it's been alluded to several times now, and you talked about even just killing that man, killing that flesh of, we can't sit here and say, I never get jealous. I never wish that I, whatever. That there are these times that even us as leaders, as pastors, that will see something, and it's just that instant, quick thought of like, man, I wish, or, and so I want to talk to you guys this morning or on this episode and just share about maybe how we work that out within ourselves of not letting this run us. For me, I'll just be vulnerable here and share is that, again, with our youth ministry, like I'm so excited right now. We are running record numbers in our youth. We've never seen it before.
Let's go.
And it's just like, I'm not really doing much different. But it's just like God has just started moving, and I can kind of pinpoint it to one thing, but still I look at it. But even for me, it's like I can look and I can be excited about how many kids I got coming. But then I can get up Thursday morning and I can see his post, and I can allow what I see on Sebastian's feed. Well, he gave away an Xbox, or they had this many kids, or whatever, and I can allow this to be like, man, well, if I could do that, then I could have kids here. Or if I could, do this every week, well, then I know I could get more here. Or the same thing, that I'll see things that you guys are doing, like just outsider looking in. I see that it looks like you guys do like men's ministry really well, that you guys, outsider looking, it looks like you got it going on. And so I see things sometimes like, man, that's awesome. And our men's ministry here, it's growing really in the last couple of months. We've got a lot of guys getting focused on this, but it's still just these things I can outwardly look at and be like, I wish that our church was doing what they're doing. I wish that our church had what they had. And it's important for me to not let that all day Thursday think about what I saw in him. Or when I get home Sunday afternoon after church and I'm excited about what happened here, but then I see what you guys did, I can't sit around through all the Sunday football games and Sunday night countdown, but I'm still thinking about what I saw Pastor Scott or what I saw Harrison Faith share. And so for me, it's just like knowing of, what we talked about at the beginning of this is kingdom. It's about Big C church winning. And if that means that students are showing up at his campus for an Xbox and they get saved that night and they're baptized, win.
Yeah.
Let's celebrate that. If you've got men showing up or whatever, I just use that as something I've just noticed, but you got people showing up at your campus, and maybe they're people that I've seen here and I see them at your church, but now they're plugged in and now they're serving somewhere, and they never served here. They never wanted to, but now they're serving at your church. I got to be like, well, that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
Not that they sit in here for 20 years, never do anything, they never grow. But if they can go to your campus, they go to your church, and in 6 months, they get behind a servant's heart and they really fall in love with Christ and they really believe in serving you as pastor and serving Jesus and his church, then that's a win. And so for me, it's like, I've got to remind myself that it's not about them just sitting in a chair at ROLC, and when our guy comes through and counts them, there's a count.
Exactly.
No, it's like, no, they need to be somewhere that they're going. So that's I have to remind myself. And so I would just like to ask you guys, like, how do you personally guard your hearts when the enemy wants to get you into comparison, when he wants you to get into competition, when all the enemy wants to do is divide and subtract away? How is it that we together, like, no, we're going to grow. I'm going to guard this. I'm going to protect this. I'm going to celebrate, even when in our flesh wants to be like, no, this is, and we're like, no, Jesus told me that, let me share this really quick while you guys think, and then I'll let you share. I was thinking about this morning, John 4, 1 John 4, it's 19 through 21, and it just says that we love because he first loved us. Whoever claims to love God, but yet hates a brother or a sister is a liar. For whoever does not love their brother and sister whom they have seen cannot love God whom they have not seen. And he has given us this command: anyone who loves God must also love their brother and sister. And so for me, it's just like, how dare I get upset? How dare I, even as a leader, get upset with another leader, say like, well, what they're doing, and I'm jealous of Sebastian, or I'm jealous of Pastor Scott, whatever. And like, no, the scripture tells me that how can I say that I love God if I have hatred or envy within my heart against my fellow brother? And he says, no, you can't say you love God when you can't even love your neighbor. So I think that's, for me, it's just like something of like, no, I'm going to love you guys, and I'm going to love your congregations. I'm going to love people, because as long as they're growing, then the church is winning. So feel free to share anything on that.
Yeah, definitely. Man, can I just pull this conversation in a weird direction really fast?
Have at it.
Me and some friends of mine who are pastors as well, we've had this kind of conversation, and one of the things is, we know it's like, where would the church be in terms of the other churches in competition be if we didn't have that social media aspect of it, And so we were talking about that one day, and it just kind of like this concept just kind of hit us out of nowhere. And as one of my friends was talking about it, he just said, I'm sitting there looking at social media, and I've got friends that are in ministry too, and I'm seeing what they're doing and how they're being successful and how it's doing great. He goes, and as I'm sitting there looking at it, I'm thinking, man, I wish, just like you said, I wish for me we could have the same thing, right? He goes, and what I realized is, I realize I am being intimate with somebody else's body, And he goes, that really hit me, because I thought, man, it's almost kind of like adultery. And as soon as he said that, I said, no, I think it's worse. I said, I think it's ecclesiastical pornography, that we look at other churches and romance ourselves with their intimacy, with their love, their gifts, their blessing.
That's so good.
And we really want it for ourselves, but we hadn't put the time in, right? We hadn't spent the sacrifice. We hadn't put the prayers in. We hadn't walked through that hard time. And what we're seeing is the blessing. What we're seeing is really just the overflow of love from all that pastor has been putting in, but we just want it cheaply.
Yeah.
Because now we see the effects of it, right? Which is hence what pornography is, right? We're romancing ourselves with the things that are cheap. And not really putting time into our marriage to grow that and multiply that. So I think that's one way we can look at that and say, how can we guard our hearts? That would be to understand that it really is a pornography type of mindset, that you're wanting something superficial and cheap and fast for your own benefit, but you don't want to put nothing into it. And so I think that's something we can let it shock our hearts and our souls on that. But I think at the same time too, for me personally, I think just growing up without a dad, I struggle with the whole approval aspect. And so I think that is something that I look at another church, and I want my church to grow. I want us to do well as well. But when I see another church growing, I think, man, especially sometimes you may see it in the church, and this pastor, he's just new to pastoring, brand new, don't know anything. Church is blowing up, doing well. You're like, man, what? Like
I've been doing this all these years.
I've been grinding, dog. Like, I've been grinding. And what, you know? And so in Matthew 20, there's the parable that Jesus tells the labor in the vineyard, right? You remember the story where he goes out and he hires a laborer. Mm-hmm. And as he hires his laborer, he says, hey, I'm going to pay you a denarii for the whole day, right? And then he goes out again. He finally keeps going out till like the 11th hour, right?
Yeah.
And so basically the last guy he goes and gets, he only works an hour. While the first guy, he's been grinding all day long. And so Jesus says, tell the manager to go pay everybody. And they all agreed for one denarii. So there's no shifting that's going on, right? And so the manager goes out and pay. He says, pay the guy that was hired last, pay him first. So the guy that's getting paid first, he's getting paid last, and he's seeing all of this. Like, I've been working harder than all of y'all, and I'm going to get paid the same? Like, no, that ain't working for me. Mm-hmm. And so, man, this is what Jesus says, and I think it's so good because he... I think he just identifies where our heart really is. And what we're seeing is simply this. We're seeing that there is a competitive heart, right? I've been working, and he didn't work that much. So why are you rewarding his lack of work when you should be rewarding my work even more, right? So that's the comparison thing. And what we find is that we're really just walking in works. We profess grace, right? Grace got you the job. Grace was guaranteeing the money. But it's really works why you should pay me more. And this is what Jesus says at the very end. I think it's just huge. He says, he goes, take what is yours and go. He's telling this other guy that agreed for the agreement. He says, but I want to give this last person the same as I gave to you also. Is it not permitted for me to do whatever I want with what is mine? Or is your eye evil because I am generous? Wow. I mean, man, that's like a double punch to my chest right there. Like, so the Lord was basically saying, Scott, is your eye evil? Are you stingy? Are you greedy? Are you jealous? Just because I'm a generous God? And so what hit me when I was reading that, what I realized was this, is that the servant cared more about his worth than the master's wealth. Wow. Man, to see that God is good and generous. He totally begrudged God, and looked at his grace as being something ugly because he thought he was getting something less. He was really resting on his works, And I think that's the same way. If I see Sebastian doing well, and I'm thinking, Lord, wow, I'm trying my hardest. Right. What I'm saying is, Lord, your grace is unfair, and my works are actually better than your grace. Yeah. Because if truth be told, I should be getting blessed more. Why? Because I'm working harder. Yeah. But all day long, we're in the pulpit preaching grace, grace, grace. You know what I mean? So I think there's some bit of a hypocrisy in us that our flesh tends to make us want to wrestle with.
Yeah, and what's the saying that, and I'm going to butcher, but it's like if hard work was everything, then the donkey would own the farm or something like that in that story.
Yeah, that's true.
And like in this thought of like, what you're reading there is this parallel of that even in our lives as believers, we can get so upset because, God, I've been following you since I was 5 years old, and now some dude on his deathbed who's lived a terrible life accepts you in his last breath.
Some thief on the other cross.
He has a mansion next to me.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I've done this my whole life, and I've been faithful, and he's lived like he wanted to, but yet we have the same reward in heaven. And God says, because I can do whatever I want, and this is what I said I'm going to do. And I think that's a great, even just bringing it back to the three of us and everybody else in this town, of like, maybe that is what God's plan is. Maybe he just shows up and he's 24 as of one day, and he's 24 now, and now God just starts blessing, and he's got like 500 kids in his youth group, and I'm just like, this ain't fair. And God, why?
No doubt. I receive that.
Like, why do you? I receive it. I receive it for you. If so, I'm coming over. But if so, it's just like why is that? How do I decide what's fair? I don't. Exactly. How dare me, you, any of us decide what's fair? Because then God says, no, this is me. Yeah, I decide what's fair.
I loved your thought on the ecclesiastic.
Oh my gosh,
ecclesiastical pornography.
We're opening the episode with that. That's so good.
That is kind of mind blowing. And what's so crazy about that is that it starts off. It takes what's good, and then it perverts it.
Exactly.
It's good to want your church to grow. It's good to see other churches grow. it's good to want all of these things, but you're perverting it whenever you get jealous of God's generosity. And I love that thought. One of the things that, because being young, there's a lot of things that I've had to work out. Whenever I was 18 and in ministry and leading a youth group for God knows why, I have no idea why, there were a lot of pits of jealousy I was in. And I was in the Fayetteville area, and what I started doing was I just started unfollowing churches and people because I just couldn't do it. And then now at this point, 5 years in, I have figured out that all I really needed to do was two things. Pray that God would capture that thought and take captive that thought and help me celebrate other churches. And then two, I had to change my nomenclature mentally and what I actually said out loud instead of, man, if only I had a LED wall, if only I had the greatest sound system ever, if only I had the lights that they had. Whenever I changed my nomenclature was whenever I got to the point to where I could celebrate other churches. And then I myself could be about the capital C church and about unity. And whenever I first moved here is whenever I was so intentional. I was like, I'm going to sit down with Pastor Caleb, because he's older than me, he's wiser than me, he's been in ministry longer than me. I'm going to sit down with Pastor Tanner, and I'm going to learn from these just massive wealth of wisdom. And so the top two things were praying to where I could sleep at night and I wasn't getting jealous. I was able to take captive all those thoughts and just changing the way I talk. And remembering what God has blessed me with. And I think it's so beautiful so often in Scripture, especially in the Old Testament, whenever Israel is going through the cycle of sin, God calls them, he's like, don't you remember whenever I parted the Red Sea and then drowned the entire Egyptian army so that you could be free?
Yeah.
Don't you remember whenever I rained down manna from heaven? And for us as pastors and even church members, we're called to remember. Yeah. Don't you remember whenever God did that incredible work and 40 plus were baptized? Don't you remember whenever you were hitting record-breaking numbers and now a low week is a high week from a year ago?
Yeah.
And so I think it's so important that we change our nomenclature from jealousy to that generous heart of God.
Yeah.
That's been life-changing for me.
Yeah. Man, I would extend that and just say to change it from being a slave, to being a son. Mm-hmm. If I go back to this passage here, what I find is that a servant based his worth on his approval, right? But man, that's not how sons work. Mm-hmm. Sons base their worth on their acceptance, right? They don't have to work for that. And I think when all of us can begin to understand that we're just accepted, I don't got to prove anything to the Lord. Mm-hmm. When I just walk in the acceptance of His Son, then whatever He has for me is what He has for me. Yeah. But if I'm always trying to work it out and prove to Him why I deserve this and that, then I'm never really walking in the blessings of a son, Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, then the best that God has for me is what I earn. Right. But you and I know, we need more than what we can earn. Mm-hmm. I need God to give me way more than what I can prove to Him for. But I'll not have that so long as I operate as a servant or as a slave. I need to operate as a son.
Yeah, that's great. And for us, and about to close this out, but even just being like what you're talking about, the Israelites, of being cautious of, even them, they have all these miracles, and then they start asking God, like, weren't our lives better as slaves? Weren't we better in Egypt? Weren't we provided more for in Egypt than we are? Not knowing where God is trying to take them to, not knowing where Moses is trying to get them to, and where Joshua is going to, and then like, you're gonna have to fight for what you have. Like, you're not just gonna get it. Like, you're gonna have to go into Jericho and you got to go defeat all these kings. But what I'm gonna give you is way better. But a lot of people, we can want to hit that hard part and be like, it was easier when I was just back here. Kind of just closing out this episode here. Last thing I want to, is to hit on here is that I just want to talk directly to not just you guys, but everybody that might be watching or listening to this episode, is that I want people to understand that we're for each other. That the three of us and everybody else in this town, that we are people that we want other churches to grow because we want God's kingdom to grow. And so I would just encourage that maybe it is somebody from ROLC watching this, maybe it's somebody from Harrison Faith, maybe it's somebody from Brand New Church, Eagle, whatever, wherever you're watching from, however you found this episode, that, I just want to encourage people that wherever you're being fed at, stay at that table. If that's a good house, then it's a good house. And that maybe there are things that happen. Maybe you don't agree 100% with everything that maybe got said on a Sunday or something that happened on a midweek night or whatever. And I would just encourage people, and I feel like you guys probably echo me and back me up on this, but if you have somebody within your congregation that maybe doesn't love everything that's happened, well, then rather than just leaving and making a big, vague post on Facebook, but we know exactly what they're talking about, rather than doing all these things, talk to your pastor. Schedule a time, meet with that pastor, tell them, hey, pastor, I'm feeling this way. You said something, or I heard something, and we've been here, and I love this house, but I just want some clarification on this or that. And I certainly know that I think it'd be okay, because Pastor Mike said this many times. It's like, if you have a problem, he said, make an appointment. Let's sit in my office. Let's talk about this. And so, as we're closing this out, I just want to encourage people that maybe ROLC is your home, maybe it's whoever else, but to be at that place. And if you got stuff going on, look, every relationship isn't perfect. There's always little things that happen in a marriage and whatever, and you work through it. You don't just leave. You don't just take off and flee in the middle of the night. And so I think that our relationship with pastors should be the same way of talk to your pastors. Yeah. They're people just like you. Yeah. They make mistakes just like you. We're not perfect, just like you. Give us some grace, because we are not him. We're just doing the best work we can for him. And I would just, encourage people and invite them to have those conversations with that leadership. And so as we close this out, I would just want to ask you guys one final question, and I'll give you a second to think about it. But what's one thing that you wish your congregation knew about how pastors view other churches? One thing that you wish your people, all your people, maybe it's your students, one thing that you wish that your congregation knew about how pastors view other churches. And I think that for me on this is that I would hope that I could model my life in a way that what I say on this episode and the things that I might post and share, of that it's not just talk, but that I truly mean it. That I really do get excited when I see Harrison Faith winning, when I see God doing works. I really do get excited when I see the numbers that are there, because I'm thinking, like, that is incredible that many students are in one place pursuing God. I know that they're in good hands. I know that the word's being preached to them. Do I wish that I had that many? Yeah. Do I even know what I would do with that many? Am I prepared for it? I don't know in some of these places, and these things. But it's just like, I just want to model to people that in this, that I really do celebrate other people's wins. And something that Pastor Mike said here many times is, maybe it's a Sunday morning and somebody has a crazy miracle in their life, and that it gets shared or something happens, and it's just like, can we celebrate what's going on? And like 5 people clap. And it's just like, but if that was your miracle, right, you would be doing backflips. You would want somebody gets $1 million in service, whatever, and they're like, man, God just blessed them, and everybody else sits around jealous. Yeah. But if it was your miracle, it would be the biggest thing that ever happened in your life. Yeah. And I want to celebrate your guys' wins like that. Yeah. I want your wins not to be out of a jealousy thing, but to say, God, if you want to do that for me, then I welcome that. But you doing it for them is good enough. And that's awesome. And that I've agreed to what my pay is. I agreed for my denarii however many years ago. And though my work started then, theirs might be now, his might be now. Regardless, God, you are the decision maker, and I'm just grateful that I can work in the field. Yeah. And I'm just grateful that I can be a part of reaping the harvest. So I'll let you guys share your thoughts on this, and then we'll end. I just want to pray with you guys, over you guys, and then we'll shut this thing down. Yeah.
There's about 2 different directions that I want to go. Actually 3, because I want to address something that you said earlier, and then I want to hit what you just asked about. You mentioned talk to your pastor if you're going to leave the church. And what I want people to know, and some people may be like, oh, this guy's obnoxious. No, I mean this with the most soft, gentle heart. People leave churches and leave their pastor behind over the littlest things, and they forget what all that pastor has done for them. That pastor was with you whenever your grandmother died. Mm-hmm. She walked her through salvation whenever she was on her deathbed. That pastor was there for you whenever you were struggling financially. That pastor was there for you whenever maybe you got through a breakup or divorce or whatever, and that same pastor said one thing, and so quick you're willing to just leave. Mm-hmm. Have that conversation.
Yeah. Have
that conversation. And whenever you bounce around at churches, Pastor Ed Young out of Dallas, he has this church called Fellowship Church. But he also has this book. He has many books, but one of them that I just read it's called The Table. And it describes the church as a table. And there's chair 1, which is the baby Christian or the lost. There's chair 2, which is the novice Christian, the teenager. There's chair 3, and that's the mature people. Those are the people that are ready to push away from the chair or from the table and start bringing people to the table. And then there's the head of the table, which is the dude with the food, the dude that is creatively sharing the bread of life to the congregation. And whenever you're leaving churches every week, every other week, every year, if you don't spend a year at that church, you're just constantly sitting in chair 1. And you're never experiencing the beauty of moving from baby to teenager and from teenager to maturity, and then being able to push away and start bringing other people to the table. So if you're looking for, I know I'm preaching to the choir right here, and I'm looking at the choir right here, but I'm preaching to the camera. If you're looking for a church, stay there. Get in chair 3. Start bringing people. Push to maturity. This is so important. But one thing, let me share the final thought. The actual question. Address the question that you asked.
We're all pastors, so nobody actually is.
Yes.
My last thought before I close.
Yes.
And then when I'm closing,
In
I got
closing,
one more.
in closing. 3 more points. No, what I want people to know about the way I view other churches is, if I were to sum it up into one word, it's wisdom. And I view churches as their pastor. And whenever I look at that pastor, even if I think I'm a better pastor than them, which is fleshly for me to think that, let me say that, but I know that they're a wealth of knowledge. Most of the time they've forgotten more than I've learned.
Yeah.
And so, Pastor Scott, I know that you know way more than me. And I know that you know ministry better than I can do it. And I know you have so much wisdom that I would love to dive into. And same with Tanner and Caleb and Mike. And so churches are full of, and your pastor is a wealth of wisdom and relationship. And it's nothing but godly. And so that's what I'm closing with is that's how I view churches.
It's good.
Okay.
It's good.
I think mine would just be succinctly that we have to remember that we're one body, right? Mm-hmm. We're one body, and anytime you celebrate the body, you exalt the head.
Yep.
And I think that's we have to make sure we understand that this is what we're doing. We're celebrating the body because in doing so, we exalt the head. And when you exalt the head, the whole body wins.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. So until we truly understand that, then we're always at a loss. In fact, I would say if we're not celebrating the body, we're trying to be the head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we just have to back up and understand the context of what we belong to, right? This is not our town. This is the kingdom, right?
Yeah.
We're a part of. And if we can have that frame, if we can have that filter, it's just like I said earlier. Then we're sons and daughters walking in acceptance and God's grace and His blessing. Is definitely going to be more than one denarii at the end of the day.
Yes, definitely, for sure. That's awesome. That's excellent. I just want to thank you guys for sharing, both of you guys, your wisdom, your knowledge on this. And man, I just pray that God would just bless this city, that, between this today, that between this city and maybe it's other people in other places watching, that I really want today's episode not to just be a thing that we do and we don't live out, but I want people to see this. And so that's just my prayer for today is that as people watch this, as people listen to it, however they are, that people's hearts would change, that they would understand that
absolutely
just because they're not at that place doesn't mean that they have to hate that pastor or hate those people or whatever. That, God called us to love our brothers and our sisters. And I pray that people would start doing that. And for us as leaders, to bring more people to these tables. It's not just us three. You guys are just a couple that I have a relationship with. But there's a lot of other great people in the city doing this in places all across the states and across the world. And the church needs to work together. And so that's just my prayer for this. And so I just want to say thank you to those that have watched, that have listened. Today's episode was a little bit lengthier, but you're not doing anything anyway, so you might as well. I know I got a ton of people that are like, I just turn it on, I just drive, whatever. And so I just say thank you to those that you've watched, that you've listened, wherever it is that you're listening from, whatever church you call home, share this with somebody. If it blessed you, let me know, let your pastors know if you're with them or whatever. But let this work on you, let it change you. I feel like it was a really important episode. So again, I just want to say thank you, Pastor Scott, Pastor Sebastian. Thank you guys for being here today. And I pray that this changes the kingdom. So thanks for watching today.